Was really inspired by the women in my life. I had heard so many stories from women who had had different challenges or experiences, and they felt that they were not being validated or their stories were not being told. And I personally love watching film. I'd watched so many films, but as an individual, I felt my stories were not being told. So I thought this was an excellent opportunity to be able to tell a different story of the Zimbabwean experience, about women's lived experiences. And so it is an ensemble piece. So I thought it would be great to bring in different characters who would represent different women.
Nyarai, I don't know what I'd ever do without you.
Beats me.
I'm going to South Africa to have an abortion.
Jeez, Maxie.
You're not the one who'll have to carry it for 9 months of your life and then take care of it for the rest of its life.
I know, but abortion is not the only option.
Rusambo Redu, $2,000.
You're quite cheap, huh?
It's just a talk.
Maybe to your family. I heard someone was asked to pay a cool $10,000, a new car, and 100 liters of petrol just last week.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
This story it's very timely. You know, I wrote the script over 10 years ago, but it's resonating today. I mean, we weren't talking about the Ben 10 scenario back in those days, but now we are. You know, women with younger men and issues of abortion and lobola and the commodification of women through practices like lobola. So I wanted for people to be able to get into a space where they could discuss these issues.
I'll start by engaging with Rumbi, who is the director of this film. And my first question to you, Rumbi, would be, what led you to conceptualizing this film? How long did that take from the concept to the final product to work through? And what has the response been like?
Thank you very much, Kudzai. Thank you to her Zimbabwe and for everybody who's come on such a chilly, rainy night. The concept of playing warriors came about years ago, 2003. I was sitting down having a chat with friends, a bunch of women, and one of the women had just gone through a very acrimonious divorce situation with her husband, and everybody else started to share, and I was like, wow, these are really important issues that I don't really see discussed much. And I also felt that in my own life, I was watching movies. I love movies. I'm a filmmaker, but there weren't that many movies that spoke to my experience. So I decided I wanted to make one. And the films that we had in Zimbabwe were very much message movies. So about specific topics, whether it be teen pregnancy, HIV and AIDS, or so on. And I didn't want to make another message movie. I just wanted to go out there and entertain while telling a story that I felt could be compelling to the audience. So we started looking for funds. Zimbabwe had no cash. We were going through difficult political times. There was a time where it was difficult to even go outside with a camera and film anything. So years passed and years passed. And when we finally got to a stage where we had the money and the situation was right and we had the actors and the crew, it was 2011. So 2011 we got back into it, and the actual process from when we were able to get the money and make the film was about 7-8 months.
What kept you going? I mean, the years that spans includes 2008 and, you know, all of the chaos of that time. What makes you continue with the process when you face so many challenges?
I was so passionate about it from the beginning. You know, it actually took me like a day or two to write the script. Wow. So I was like, okay, we're starting tomorrow. But it didn't happen. But I was so I felt very strongly about the characters because they were women I felt I knew in my life, and I really wanted to tell their stories. And I still felt that Zimbabwe, we had such a strong industry and so much to show in terms of our music, our locations, our talent, and I wanted to be able to bring that out. So that kept me going the whole time. And it was great that there were other people who kept me going. So my co-producer, Jackie, she walked the path with me the whole time. So we kept on reminding each other, okay, let's follow that up. Let's check if that person's available. And, you know, life happened in the meantime, but we were always focused on getting it done.
Would you say the Leslie character is a common character in society? And why would you say, if it's yes, why do you think so? And if you say no, why do you not think so?
Well, we do have people like Leslie. That's an honest truth. There are people like him. Because if you look at the background of him, he's coming from a divorce. And whatever drove the divorce was probably he thought in his head that the wife left him for somebody who's well-mannered and who's wealthy and stuff like that. But at the same time, when he then approached this whole situation, he forgets that love is not about proving who you are. It's about giving what you have. Because in the scenario with Leslie, Nyarai is like, he's trying to show her that I'm capable of doing A, B, C, D, because he's really running away from what happened before.
It seems the economy has become its own sort of enabling environment for some form of greater, and I won't call it equality, but, because the economy is so tough, really, when you talk to people who are married these days, they say, well, neither one of us can really not bring a salary, because if we work together, the home can be sustained, because, it's really a tough economy. Now, traditionally, we've had the male breadwinner, the male as you go to him for the money, for everything, but times are changing. Do you think that we are ready? Are we changing with it, or is it more of a, we can both earn money, but I'm still the head of the home and every decision comes through me first? Or are those changes also happening in terms of decision making and sharing of those roles and responsibilities in the home?
What I realize is things are really changing, as you said, but at the same time, in as much as you are bringing something as a woman, and I'm also bringing something as a man, in as much as I'm not bringing anything, you're doing much of the work, as in probably finding and providing for the family. But the fact remains the same, that I'm the head. But at the same time, if we happen to have problems or whatever needs to be fixed in the house, I don't just make decisions, or I don't just imply, or I don't just do it and then tell you. It's a question of talking about it and making the same decisions together. But if I find it not fit that we don't make such decisions, I'm the head of the house as a man. There's no two ways about it. Even the Bible says these things, as in the man is always the head of the house. There's not even one verse I've read in the Bible that speaks of a woman who's the head of the house. Let's face the fact, the truth be told. In as much as you're doing something, if you look at the structure of a man and a woman, they build differently. In as much as we might share the same feelings. And if you look at a man and a woman, I'm not saying women are badly shaped, but I'm saying a man is stronger than a woman, which is a fact.
Okay, so there's also this debate currently that physical strength has no relevance anymore, because everything that is done these days is more about the brain. And like if we're at work, you sit there at your computer, I sit at my computer. It doesn't matter that you can carry a ton of bricks and I can't. Well, maybe there are times you may need to carry a ton of bricks, but they won't be as often as they used to be before, because of the difference in the labor that we do. So is there still that argument to be raised about strength and that sort of thing?
I'll keep repeating the same thing. Men and women are built differently. I'm not saying this because I'm a man, okay? I'm standing in against 3 women, but this is a fact. It's something that we can't run away from, in as much as there's gender equality. I respect that fact, as in, But I've realized that my growing up as a little kid, maybe it's what affected me is, and I could see my dad's got strength. If a snake comes in the house, mom says, "Oh, there's a snake," and she jumps on the sofa, and my dad's got to look for something to hit the item, the snake. So yeah, that's what it is. Let's face the fact. It's the truth. We can have a president being a woman. We can have the head of the states or whatever as a woman, but those things, they can never change.
Now I just want to move over to Kudzai. I think many people know you in your life as a singer. I've seen some tweets up as well, people who hadn't seen you act before saying, wow, Kudzai sings, but wow, she's a great, great actress. How difficult or easy was it for you to characterize Nyarai?
Thank you. Nyarai was someone I could relate to. She was single, like me. She was Zimbabwean, like me. She was ambitious, like me. So in terms of our similarities, we had lots of similarities. The difficult thing, though, I think for me was to show Nyarai's, I don't know, how can I say them? Maybe her contradictions, her insecurities. Although she was such an ambitious person, she was really afraid of what people thought of her. What her mother was constantly telling her, that she wasn't a whole person because she wasn't married yet. So it was for me, that was the challenge, to show a strong woman who has these deep insecurities. But it was fun at the same time.
I'll give the rest of the time now to questions, if there are questions from anyone. I think there's been some interesting discussion points already raised. Are there any questions? Is there anyone who'd like to ask a question or follow up anything that has been said, or something that has been omitted?
A few questions off Twitter. There's a question here from someone named Miraram Tatu, and he's asking, why are we more comfortable calling it lobola rather than roora? Why are we calling it lobola, not roora? And this is a common thing. He just wants clarity on why that is common. Second question, well, it's a comment, and maybe it calls for a response. Roora is like a fast car. You can only really love it when you have it. Comment.
Roora, is it semantics or is there more to it?
For the purposes of the film, it was really semantic, because it's a film, it's for a bigger audience, so the term lobola is very common across borders, so it was much easier to use.
Okay, Eddie wants to say something.
I think what he meant is paying lobola. You'd love it more when you happen to have money to do that. But if you don't have, it's kind of tricky. Yeah, I think that's what it meant. Well, it's when you're staying with somebody, when you want to stay with somebody, it's a culture. It's there. It's something that we need to follow before you even engage yourself into meeting somebody. When you have made decisions that you want to stay with them, it's some protocol that you need to pass through. It's inevitable.
For me, it loses its meaning if it ceases to become a token. I do not want to be bought. I want it to be a token of love. It shouldn't be, well, let's see, how many films has she done? Okay, she's a public figure. Okay, she'll be 30,000. No. Because I'm not, there shouldn't be a price on a human being, and people shouldn't get greedy. So it should remain a token, not a money-making scheme.
How do we overcome that? Because we're still living in those economic situations where someone will be like, yeah, this one has a degree, it travels somewhat, is doing something, so we can actually, charge something higher. So, I mean, we can't divorce it now. It was done in a different system where where it initiated from, we didn't have the monetary system that we have now, but we have it, and it's now here to stay. I mean, we're even now bringing in bond coins to, make the economy even more, I don't know if it makes it stable, but whatever. So how do we deal with that?
In my opinion, I think it's important if two people are getting married, they are a unit. So if people dictate what happens, at the beginning, it's going to happen for the rest of their lives. So I think two people that love each other should decide what the budget is. This is my opinion. And hopefully have a good relationship with their parents, to know that, you know what, we don't want to be homeless after the order. We want to actually live somewhere. The money needs to go somewhere else. So I think communication is really great between the couple and between their parents. And then all the long lost relatives that want to profit of it, they just need to shut up.
I think we have a very messed up value system, the way our values are progressing because of how our traditions are being interpreted. If we really go back into our traditions, like Kudzai is saying, it was a token. You should be able to bring something as a representation of bringing two families together. But now if you start to say, no, this is our culture, to put a value on our daughter and get some fuel and a cell phone, then it completely goes against what the tradition was, and we're starting to do things just for our own personal benefit. I mean, there have been so many situations where these kind of ceremonies have broken up relationships because two people cannot just be in a relationship and start a life of their own. The life starts with the tensions that exist at these ceremonies where they're saying, no, you are not paying enough money, you're not taking our daughter anywhere, and then further down the line, other stories come up, somebody gets sick, somebody passes away, which takes us into even more arguments and discussions there. Ne? So our value system needs to be cleaned up right from the start so that two people can go into a relationship and build a family with a firm foundation of a family that supports this relationship.
Some people will say the themes that we're discussing even right now, these are Western themes. You know, you people have been reading too much, I don't know, People magazine, I don't know, like, or watching the Kardashians or whatever it is that we are doing. And they'll say, you know, and discussing abortion, that's not something we do in Zimbabwe. That's not part of our culture. Going out with younger men, you know, that's not part of our culture. And you've raised the whole in our culture story. But yeah, people will say, this is so removed from society. These are not bread and butter issues, or as people commonly refer to it, grassroots issues. You're now talking about people who are, you know, drinking drinks at bars. And you know, you're bringing that as though that is a Zimbabwean issue. People are struggling to find sugar, and you're busy talking about people who have money to buy cocktails. What are you doing?
I'm just making a movie. It's just the representation. I think the film shows a certain pocket of our society, and a very often kind of neglected pocket of our society. It's the newly growing middle class. But the themes are not unique to just one group of people. There are young women. In the work that I do, I travel a lot around the country, and you know, there are stories of young women having abortions behind trees somewhere because they don't want the family to know. As we live in a very conservative society where we don't talk about these things, and you don't bring it up, you know, and if you do bring it up and you bring shame to the family, then it causes other issues. So very often you find young women's voices are strangled. They don't talk about these issues, whereas in the urban settings, you'll find more young women talking about these issues. So to say that it's Western, I think, would be a cop-out. They're very real issues, but the way it's been represented on screen might not be the same as somebody else's reality. They may not be going to Merek at the weekend and doing those other things, but at the core, it's a universal story. Not just to Zimbabwe. This film has been screened in over 20 countries, and wherever it goes, somebody comes up to us and says, you know what? That's my story. The people who gave us the initial funds to make the film were from Sweden. And the woman said, I'm giving you these funds because this is my story. I grew up in a village outside of Stockholm, and my mother just never understood me and said I have to be married by a certain time. So there are aspects and themes that can resonate in any society, but the way it's depicted may differ.
Just wanted to comment on the issue of lobola. I grew up in Bulawayo, in a society where even when we were growing up, lobola was say to be a token. And the way elders would explain it was, whatever the guy is charged, he's not supposed to finish, because the idea was that you're creating ukama, a relationship. So the idea is, if you finish, you are saying, you don't want to see us anymore. So the idea was, okay, if you haven't finished, you'll feel obliged to come and see us. So I think it was really that creating relationship. But when I came to Arroyo, I got like a shock where someone is saying, oh, that's so cheap. I'm like, so I think it's maybe we've just moved from the original idea of what lobola was meant to be. And I think in so doing, we've actually allowed ourselves as women to be commodified to an extent where the guy can actually hit you and says, look, I paid for you. Take it or leave it. That kind of thing. Because if you're going to charge someone $25,000, I'm not so sure that you're still talking about a token.
I was just thinking when Eddie was speaking, I was listening to the language that he uses. He says, there's no two ways about it. These are facts. It's inevitable. These are really strong stances, yeah? And watching this movie, I like the fact that we're starting to talk about things that we don't ever talk about, right? But I feel that as women, in as much as we are starting to talk about the things that we're not happy about, the things we don't appreciate, we're still very apologetic about it. We're still very politely angry. We are still very meekly negotiating. And at the same time, you have men with these very strong stances and this very strong language, no two ways about it. And we are saying, I'm not exactly complaining, So for me, I feel it's good that we have started to talk, but there is something that needs to change about the way we are talking. I don't think this is about Eddie. It's about gender equality, about our society, about culture. It's a word we use a lot in our culture, in our tradition. This is the way things are done. And I feel we talk with a forked tongue when we talk about our culture. We need to get things straight, like Rora is not a token of appreciation. That's something we just need to get straight. If it was, then you wouldn't ask for a refund when things go wrong. It's not. But we still start our conversations with, Rora is a token of appreciation, and then we go on and on. When we know in reality that's not the way it is, why do we still portray it as such?
I don't think I'm a forceful person by nature, so I can only be as expressive as I'll probably be forceful when I'm talking about acting or music, something that I'm passionate about. I am passionate about women's rights, but I genuinely believe that Rora is supposed to be a token. Whatever it is a perversion of what it's supposed to be. And I am hopeful and I'm optimistic that there will be a few people, there may be 5 out of 1 billion, that would see it for what it is and not abuse it, and not where women are not bought, where it is a genuine token. So if somebody's asking for a refund, then it's been perverted. It's not being used to its original intent.
I really enjoyed the film. I think it reflects on a lot of contemporary issues, also historic issues. I think the issue of Rora has been an issue that has stayed with us for a very long time. I think the dynamics have changed over time, but I think it's still quite relevant right now that we are talking about it. And I think we should continue to talk about it more and more. I think the more we talk about gender equality, the more, in my view, we need to talk about abolishing it totally. The issues that the film explores will always be relevant unless a time comes when we can say that men and women are equal, at least in our African society, our Zimbabwean society. Until and unless that happens, I think it will continue to be relevant. It will continue to stimulate worthwhile debate that is important, not only to elevate women as a constituency of our population, but even to general development within the country as well.
Films are not going to really change society. It's going to be an organic kind of process where everybody is involved, but film has a very large role to play in terms of media, because we, as a society, I think people love to go watch films in general. They want to be entertained, and if they see something that they enjoy, they'll talk about it, they'll tweet about it, they'll go on Facebook, social media, and discuss it, and it will become part of the national discussion. It's now up to people at legislative levels to now put in things that would allow things to change on a real level, for practice, for what you see on screen to now become practice in terms of our general society and how we live.
In playing words, I play a boyfriend, an older boyfriend for Kudzai, who happened to have a Ben 10, so to speak. We have people like Leslie in society who then don't really know what women want. It's based on what he wants, not thinking of what the lady wants. This conversation actually helps a lot of us in the sense that we actually see a brighter light and a clear view of how things are on the base of who we are in society. And most of the time things just do happen without us thinking about them. So if we happen to have things like this, it actually enlightens us in making us see clearly as in what's really happening on the ground.
I think it's a very interesting film. It flags out very pertinent issues that we are facing in the social circles, things to do with the marriage experience, and I think it's very interesting for couples. It's also interesting for even parents, how young people perceive the marriage union. Well, on the lobola issue, I don't think this is something that will go away like in the very shortest time possible. It's something that we're going to live with for a very long time. And though the film was done 2 years ago, we still have the same issues. And it's more of a cultural and social aspect, and there could be varying differences between men, what men think and what women think, but certainly those issues will remain for quite a very long time. Maybe what we need to appreciate is how the concept of lobola has been used to make the families much more stronger than the aspect of just making money as it is at the present moment.